Card Podcast, where we tackle the hobby's hottest topics in depth to help you navigate the sports card landscape and enjoy the hobby we all love. Here's your host, John Newman.
Time for another episode of Hobby Quick Hits. Folks, I try to keep it positive. I hope you know that and get that vibe from me, and I usually do. But, sometimes we have to talk about some things that aren't as upbeat or happy. And today, on this episode, probably fits that description. And the hobby's doing great, and I love it. I'm not angry or upset, but I have noticed something even more so this year going on in the hobby that I don't believe is a good thing. I don't think it's bodes well potentially for the hobby if it continues along that track, if you will. The hobby's not collapsing, the sky's not falling. The show has nothing to do with fanatics. It has something to do with something else. But I wanted to give my thoughts, and this is one of those shows I'd be real curious to hear if you agree with me, feel the same way or similar, or if you think I'm off base or wrong about what the show is about. And so the title of this episode is The Social Cast of the Hobby. And it's something, again, I've noticed and I wanted to comment and do a show about. So again, please, if you disagree, let me know and let me know why. And if you agree, let me know and let me know why. This is just one man's hobby opinion, if you will. And so we'll get to all that meaty, juicy stuff, if you will, after we hear from our great sponsor, Mojo Break, and Mojo.com store in Santa Clara. Great breakers, won the Tops, Golden Cutter, I believe it's called. But Dan and Doug doing big things in California, doing big things worldwide. So happy to have them part of the show. Let's hear from them, and then we'll get this episode started. Hey folks, wanted to tell you about the best place to get some of your sealed sports card wax products. Great selection and some of the lowest prices on the web. MojoBreakShop.com is that place. Whether it's a box or a whole case, they're your guys, and they ship around the world right to your door. The Mojo Break name is one of the most trusted in the hobby. From sports cards to Pokemon, their selection can't be beat. They offer daily deals and pre-orders. Who won first place at this year's Topps Rip Party? None other than Mojo Break. Their prices are already great, but here's a way to save even more money. Use the code QUICKHITS, that's QUICKHITS, for 10% off anything on MojoBreakShop.com. They also have a full-service card shop in Santa Clara, California. So if you're in the area, stop by. They're open 7 days a week, so check them out at MojoBreakShop.com. All right, so, I like to use a lot of parallels from real life, if you will. Not that the hobbies are real life, but real life, society, and kind of bring them over and use them as analogies on the hobby side. And so, we talk about, every once in a while I do remember some stuff from my school days, when my brain works. And, I remember the social caste system of India. And I'm not going to do a teaching lesson here, but India, with Hinduism, they have sort of castes. They actually have 5, right? I'm not going to talk about all 5. The lowest one on that totem pole is the untouchables, right? That low class that people didn't respect. They do all like the dirty work. No one wants to bother with them. They're sort of beneath people. A middle class is the Vasaya, right? Sort of that middle tier that most people fit in India. And then you got the 2 upper classes, which is the Kshatriya and the Brahmins, right? That high class, high society, above people, and that's what their system is built on. They have 5 main casts. I mentioned 4. They have a bunch of subcasts. I think I read one time they have potentially, I think, like 23,000 subcasts. Don't worry, I'm not going to name them all. I don't know them all anyway, so you're safe. Don't hang up just yet. But the cast system, and now learning about it, and we have sort of things like that in America. While we don't have a religion that sort of promotes that on that sort of level, there are, we all can remember being in high school and different cliques and whatnot. That's probably a better word, cliques, than castes that they use in India. And that happens to this day, even here. But I think it's starting to happen. I don't even want to say starting. I think it's probably been going on, but I think it's become more prevalent in the hobby. We're starting to see some clickiness in the hobby, some I don't know if division, folks, is the right word. Maybe. I think there is some division there, right? And I almost put it into 3 classes, right? Kind of what I see. You got your upper class, right? The high-end sellers and buyers, and these $1 million cards and 6-figure cards. And then you have that middle class, right? Which I think, like I mentioned with the India class, right? I think more people fit in that sort of middle class, kind of, not that upper high end, maybe a little, snobby class. And then you got that lower class. And when I say this is not my opinion. I don't put anyone in any boxes or classes. If you're in the hobby, I've said this many times. I want to do a little disclaimer here. I don't care if you sell $1 million cards. I don't care if you buy and sell quarter cards. I don't care. It doesn't matter. You're part of this fraternity. You're part of this hobby. I accept you as a collector, as a hobbyist, whatever form or fashion you choose. I don't believe in these kind of social compartments that I'm starting to see form. That's why I'm doing this episode. So I want to first put that disclaimer on it. This is not what I believe in, but I think it's happening, and that's why I'm doing this show. If you look at the guest list from Sports Card Nation, the Big Brother show of this that's longer and comes out on Fridays, where I have a guest every week, I've had 7-year-old collector, Parker Frederick King, and I've had CEOs of companies, and everybody in between. The hobby is the people, all people, right? I could have even put that. The hobby is all people, all collectors, because it really is. But that's really what the basis of this show is, because I'm observing and taking stuff in hobby-wise that isn't so much the hobby is the people to certain aspects of the hobby. And I don't think it's a good thing long term. I'm not, again, this is not going to be the sky is falling, sell your cards, get out episode. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm just saying we're getting sort of this clickiness in the hobby that doesn't help the hobby. It's not going to be the downfall, the end all, but it's just not good for that community, and the hobby is all people type of aspect. And so that's what the show's about. I don't believe in it. I don't partake in it, but I'm seeing it, and that's where we are here. So let me go into more details about what I mean. So then, I didn't kind of finish my thought on that third tier of the hobby, the perception of that, right? That would be what some of maybe the high-end snobby end would say, that the cards aren't worth nothing. They collect, a player that's not very good. They collect quarter cards, 50-cent cards. They collect all one team. They're not really in my space, and It's to me, it's caused some division. Someone in that high that one tier of expensive stuff, high end stuff, doesn't help or doesn't communicate with that lower tier. It creates that division. I think we're seeing that, and I'm not going to lie to you. I think we're seeing it not just with collectors and hobbyists. I think we're starting to see it with companies. I'm going to say it. I think we're seeing it with individuals. I think we're seeing it with companies. I think we're seeing it with CEOs, and not every company. I'm not going to paint with a broad brush. I think we're seeing it with certain individuals and companies who are just catering to that high-end part of the hobby. And I get it. That's the service and product that they provide. But they can do that and still sort of include the folks that may not be in that atmosphere or that air or that space. And I don't see them doing that. And I don't see them extending sort of that branch or, that sort of thing. We've gotten cliquey in the hobby. That I don't even want to call it first tier, but that high-end class of very expensive cards, high-end auctions, vaults, people posting on social media, I sold this card for this much, or I bought this card for this much, or look at my new, flashy store and by appointment only. And again, to each their own, right? You can do whatever you want to do. There is no, this is how you do it, and this is not how you do it. I'm just saying these type of things sort of cause division, if you will, in the hobby. In my opinion, if you think I'm wrong, I want to hear from you. Maybe we can do a show where we do point and counterpoint, if you're willing to do that. But we see this space now, which has become more prevalent because of all these record auction sales and the boom and crescendo of the hobby the last 2 to 3 years. And it's put a rifts. It's kind of like the haves and the have-nots. And I have some expensive cards. I sell some expensive cards. Nothing in the millions, don't get me wrong. I'm not in that space by any stretch of the imagination. But we're seeing, I think, a divide here that we've never seen to this level before. And I don't like it when I see it. And it's, I've seen, some of those people in the space, right? Some of the people not in the space will ask questions and they're just ignored, right? People don't even respond to them. They're like invisible. And when I see that, I really cringe, because we shouldn't treat people like that. We're in the hobby, together. We're in this thing together. And even these millionaire card guys, right? And that most, a good percentage of them are good people who are helpful. I'm not painting with a broad brush, but even the ones who are not, right? I like to tell them, get off the high horse, because you didn't just, well, I shouldn't say that. I mean, if you're a millionaire and you come into space and just spend your money, you can just get in that space. But a lot of us start, opening that first pack, and then even those folks to get to that point, right? So we sort of I think most people pay their dues, if you will, kind of work their way up, that sort of thing. So, I think most people fit into that middle tier. That's where I'll put myself. I don't really want to put myself in a tier, because I'd be sort of going against, but to me, that middle tier isn't a tier, right? It's all of us that just enjoy the hobby, try to help everybody else out, answer questions, interact with people, promote the hobby, be an ambassador. I think that's 80% of the hobby. And I consider myself as one of those folks, right? Definitely not in that first millionaire space, not with individual cards. So, and then that bottom tier, lower tier, I hate using terminology that's sort of negative, but It's more of it's what other people say. Like I said, I don't view these as tiers, but there's a perception. They're set collectors. They collect, players that are sort of not high end, not Hall of Famers, long term. They're going to lose money on what they're spending their money on. And listen, that's what to those people who say that, I'm not one of them, but my response to that is they're enjoying the hobby. That's their guy. That's their team. I collected Greg Jeffries back in 1989, 90, 91, 92, right? That was my favorite player on the Mets. I still have 3 binders in my garage of Greg Jeffrey cards and rookies, right? Not worth anything, but it provided enjoyment for 3, 4, 5 years. And I don't regret any of that, right? Can't sell them now, I get it, but I didn't necessarily do that to resell them. And so we got to stop putting people in compartments, in boxes, in caste systems. And I think the hobby is starting to do that. We need to be, I look at the hobby as this. I use this analogy a lot. It's almost like a college fraternity, right? We're all in it together. We should try to help each other out, as best we can, answer questions, give advice to help people navigate the landscape, if you will, the hobby, especially new folks that are kind of coming in and don't know everything or know a lot, as they will come to find out. I think we should help them to promote the hobby so people stay in the hobby. You could say, well, that maybe that bottom tier is folks, and there is folks, right, that are sort of team collectors, player collectors, that don't want new people coming in, right? There's a class of the hobby of people that don't want new people coming into the hobby. Sort of stay off my lawn. I was here first. And to me, on the lower end of things, they're not any better than that higher end people that kind of, hold their nose up to people who don't have those 6-figure, 7-figure cards, and it creates that derision, that gap between that shouldn't be there, right? Great, you have $1 million cards, good for you, but we're all still in this hobby, and I've been in this hobby a long time, and we got new people coming in. That to me is a good thing. Again, just my opinion, but that is a good thing. We want this hobby to keep moving forward, right? We need new people. It's like fans of a team, right? I'm a Steelers fan. I'll use them for example, right? Steelers fans, older Steeler fans, accidents, fans pass away, right? If there's no new fans of a team, right, who's going to the games? Who's going to support the team? Well, that's how the hobby is. People are not going to be here at some point. They're going to pass away. That's the circle of life. We need people coming up behind them to keep that hobby moving forward. The Steelers need new fans to keep their fandom moving forward, to fill that stadium and sell out the stadium, to buy the merchandise, to rock that jersey, right? Well, we need those folks in the hobby for the same, almost the same reasons. And we got to quit looking at hobbyists, down our noses at people. I have a lot of nice cards. I have a good inventory. I don't look at other people and say, well, their inventory is not as good. I don't do that. I've never done that. And you learn not to do that because there's always going to be plenty of people who have a lot better cards than you. So you're not going to win that race anyway. And I just wasn't raised like that to begin with. We're all in this hobby together, enjoying it, hopefully. And that's what it should be about. Not this social order that's starting to, I don't even want to say starting to form. I think it's formed, but it's starting to be more prevalent, more noticeable, more out front, rather than sort of whispered. You know, I'm seeing people ask for help and certain aspects of the hobby blow them off. I'm starting, again, like I said earlier, I'm starting to see companies sort of cater to only a small part of the hobby and basically forsake the others, and I don't like seeing that. Tell me if you agree, you disagree, and I'd like to see, you know, if you're doing it the way I think is the right way and just sort of accepting everyone as part of this hobby together, you're interacting, you're transacting, you're being helpful, you're promoting the hobby, you're helping people when they have questions, you're doing it the right way, you're being honest, you're being above board. Kudos to you. I try to be that way, and I think a good percentage of us are that way. I think that's, you know, kind of to bring this all together and sort of end it on an upbeat note. Again, I think 80% of the hobby are those kind of folks that try to help each other out. Send racks. Hey, you need that card to fit, you know, fill your set. Here you go. Don't worry about it. And if that describes you and your hobby and how you do things, my hat's off to you. Please keep it up. We need that in the hobby. We need, you know, the hobby is in a great place, I believe, because of those folks, right? You know, everyone likes to point to the $1 million transactions, and that while they have a place and they are important, for me to say otherwise is disingenuous, and I'm not going to do that. But all the transactions as a whole are important. All the people as a whole are important. Whether you're collecting quarter cards or $1 million cards, to me, we're in the same fraternity. We've really got to try to keep that mindset and mentality as best we can. I think 80% of us do. We got to keep going, and maybe that number can get higher. But even if it doesn't, as long as it doesn't get too much lower, that's the, you know, sort of where the threshold, where the tides, the momentum can shift in a negative fashion. So love your hobby, promote your hobby, help others to enjoy in the hobby as well. And if you're doing that, keep doing that. I appreciate you. Thank you for doing that. I'm going to try to do that myself. And we're going to close right there. Thank you.
Leave the gun. Take the cannoli.